The birther movement is over. So saith Donald Trump. He held a press conference at his hotel, invited the press, told everybody, hey, guess what? I'm going to end the birtherism movement today, make a big announcement. We're going to do 2 videos on that. The first one, let's just focus on what he said. Let's play that clip.
Now, not to mention her in the same breath, but Hillary Clinton and her campaign of 2008 started the birther controversy. I finished it. You know what I mean. President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period. Now we all want to get back to making America strong and great again. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you.
I'd like to make an unrelated point first. I can't get it out of my mind now that he told Dr. Oz that his main form of exercise is the hand motions he makes during his press conferences. And I'm like, really? Really? That's your exercise? That's why he's in phenomenal shape, tremendous shape. His shape is many, many good.
He pulls his arm, like, sleeve up, and it's just totally jacked.
Okay.
Just one huge arm.
If you ask him, that's definitely how it is. Okay, now on to the birther controversy, matter at hand. And I ended it. You know what I mean.
He turned it into a compliment. Like he complimented himself.
Yeah.
Like I did a good thing. Like oh yeah, I ended. Because, you know, we always like it. We like the guy who ends it. Closers get a lot of money in baseball. They come in, they shut the door, get the last 3 outs.
Yep.
Right? Last drive, 2-minute quarterback. I ended that game. You know?
I'm appreciative that the birther controversy, that Donald Trump put an end to it, especially since he was still the only guy out there doing it.
Yeah, it's not.
So then it was easy to end. It
was very
All he had
easy.
to do was shut up.
He did it.
It's not a search for a missing child. I'm the only one still looking for it, and I finished it. That's not what it is.
He was in the well the whole time.
I'm not giving up. Like,
Here it is. There's the certificate. I found it.
Yeah.
So he did not take questions there. And the reason he didn't take questions is one question could have been, hey, remember that team of investigators you said you sent to Hawaii? Whatever happened with those guys? Because you said they were finding unbelievable things. Maybe what they found was that he was born in the U.S. and they're like, whoa, can't quite believe that. That's unbelievable. Turns out we were wrong.
Didn't he promise?
The unbelievable stuff they did find out was that you can get a decent rate in the offseason.
At the Trump Hotel.
Yeah.
Didn't he promise $5 million
To someone who
to
could...
a charity? No, to a charity if Obama proved that he was.
I don't remember. You're going to have to look it up.
Yeah, I think he did, and like apparently it's been proved. Period.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go. So I'm sure he'll give it just the same way he's given to the Trump Foundation, which is nothing at all. Since 2008, he's given $0 to his own charity.
In the same statement, he blames Hillary Clinton for starting the birther controversy, which has been, according to PolitiFact and factcheck.org, that is a complete falsehood.
No, I saw an article in the Telegraph. Did you see that article?
No.
There was confirming Trump's story. It's in the Telegraph. I don't know how.
So, okay, I didn't read that particular story, but I know the background on it, okay, and I'm curious what you think about them. I know that Hillary Clinton's team, when they were running against Obama in 2007, 2008, put out a picture of him wearing native garb, right, which a lot of politicians do when they go to different countries. Believe me, you look up George W. Bush funny pictures, and you'll see, right? That doesn't mean George W. Bush is from Kenya or the Philippines or anything like that. But
remember that picture of George Bush in a merkin?
And then the Clinton team did put that picture of Obama out there. It's a picture that existed, but they wanted to get it circulated in the media. And then very little reported story about how Mark Penn, who ran Clinton's campaign back in 2008, and who, by the way, used to work with Dick Morris, was Dick Morris's number 2 when he was working for Bill Clinton. I say that because Dick Morris is a massive right-winger. Mark Penn wrote a memo. Terrible guy, terrible human being.
Oh,
anyway.
Maybe so.
So Mark Penn wrote a memo saying, hey, we need to have Obama be painted as the other, okay? Yes. So all that stuff did happen under Clinton. Now, the Telegraph, did it prove that she did the birther thing? No, I'd be surprised by that.
It ignores that the birther movement started in 2004 when Barack Obama ran for the Senate. Now, it didn't catch fire until 2008 to some extent, right? But it was unquestionably started by a Republican operative in 2004. But I mean, of course it was. That's who would start it. Now, Hillary Clinton did have that one.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. Do we have that or no?
No, there
Okay,
was
so
that email though.
But and also one unfortunate clip where she said, she did the standard. He says he's a Christian, and I take him at his word.
At
Or
his
he
word.
says he's not a Muslim, I'll take him at his word. One time.
I was going to bring that up too, but that, of course, is a little different than the birther thing, which is he's not born in the United States. You could be a Muslim and be an American.
Really?
Now that doesn't.
Yeah, but it's.
But that doesn't speak well of her. I'm not trying to defend her. That was a terrible thing to
But,
say.
like-
She knows that he's a
But
Christian.
like, there's a video going around now on Twitter and being shared by people of Chris Matthews, because he did an interview with Bob Kerrey, who was the former senator from Nebraska, presidential candidate at one point, and a Clinton surrogate. And Bob Kerrey did an interview where he said, look, I think that the fact that the president is from spent time, formative years of his youth in a Muslim country, Indonesia, with 1 million Muslims, he did keep making that point, and went to a secular madras, he said, I think that actually helps him in this modern world.
Oh, yeah.
No, but I tell you, to me,
Wink.
but I disagree completely. I saw that and I was like, no, that it looked like a legitimate defense. He was like, no. I think it's a good thing. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So, and that's being touted as, and then Clinton had a response to there, which Chris Matthews was maintaining. You and Chris have the same argument here that it was winking, but I watched the video twice. I don't think it's winking at all.
Okay, so I'm glad that you found a moment where Chris Matthews and I agree 100%. Because politicians, let's not lose sight of the fact that they're politicians. Bob Kerrey might be kind of a good guy in other respects, but you're not a Clinton surrogate and go out there and talk about madrasas, and he was not in a madrasa, by the way. That's also not true. And like I said, I really think that speaks well of him that he surrounds himself with Muslims. Now, especially because we know there was an internal memo in the Clinton campaign saying, paint him as the other so that Americans don't feel comfortable with him.
That's right.
But that's a fair disagreement.
I think if you see the video, you probably won't come around to my side, but you'll be less convinced. Because then it was an incredibly praiseworthy video about how qualified he was, and that in this world it might actually help to have someone.
Yeah, not unlike the video of Travis Smiley saying that it's great that Bill Clinton has all this experience having sex outside his marriage because now he can, I don't know.
Okay, so look. Now, so I think that stuff said about Hillary Clinton is legitimate in the context that we all just gave you a ton of information about. Now, having said that, she did not go around going, no, he's not born in the United States. I'm sending a team of investigators to Hawaii. They're finding unbelievable things, right? That was Trump. He did that, right? He did it very brazenly, very outwardly. There was no dog whistle. He doesn't own a dog whistle. He owns a human whistle. And he just screams it from the rooftops. And he said the guy's not born here. He didn't believe the short form. He didn't believe the long form until today. As late as today. So, yeah, look, he was not alone in starting it. The 2004 Senate run and all those idiot, lunatic right-wingers and their blogs like, he's black, I don't know, I don't trust black people. Oh, I'm sorry, they didn't write that. They wrote, oh, yeah, the one guy who's black running for president, I don't know where he's from. John McCain's born in Panama, but I never questioned him. Gee, I wonder what the difference is. But overall, the guy spearheading it was clearly Trump. He's super on the record as doing that. So when he gives up his idiotic lunacy on the 53 days before the election, you don't get credit for that. And you don't get to blame someone else for it.
Yeah, and there's been all this. Hillary Clinton, it certainly didn't start. I misspoke earlier because the guy who started it did start in 2004 when Obama was the Senate candidate, but it was floated not by a Republican operative, but by a guy named Andy Martin, who runs for every office in Illinois and sues everybody. So it was started by one of those guys. And then it caught on. People saw it, and he made a big thing in the press, and he's looking for press attention. This was how he got it. And then it caught on in 2008. A little, and then really caught on in 2011 with Donald Trump.
And if you remember at the press conference after Barack Obama had produced his long-form birth certificate, Donald Trump then immediately shifted. He pivoted to, I want to see his college records.
Yeah, which I actually think is more racist than anything else, because he couldn't believe that Barack Obama got good enough grades at Columbia to get into Harvard Law. He's like, really? Well, why wouldn't you believe that? I mean, who questions whether Chief Justice Roberts got good enough grades? anyone else, except, to be fair, people do question George W. Bush. And that's because we can see it with our own eyes. And his dad was senator and he was a very influential guy. And then all of a sudden, this knucklehead winds up at Yale and Harvard. But Barack Obama did not have influential parents, didn't have anybody influential. But you ask him, like, oh, really? That guy? I mean, I don't know why I'm asking this particular guy, but that guy got into Harvard Law? Yeah, he did.
And just also to be clear on Trump and birtherism, we know it didn't stop in 2011 when it got produced in any way. And Trump continued to tweet questions about Hawaii. And, oh, they changed the rules here, and notice the change in toner and the ink change. And there's every conspiracy theory that wasn't the real birth certificate was followed up by Trump post-2011, even after he had released the long form.
Okay, and I just want to ask one final question of Trump supporters. Now that Trump himself has come out and said, okay, yeah, just kind of kidding / lying about Obama not being born in the U.S., do you feel like the idiot that you are when you believed him all along and you kept writing and questioning all those things about, oh, maybe Obama's not born in the U.S., maybe Obama's not born in the U.S.? So now your beloved, dear leader, Donald Trump, says, yeah, it's over, period. He was born in the U.S., period. Now, you trust everything that guy says, right? So, okay, now do you trust him? And will you now go on the internet and write, tweets and comments going, oh, man, you guys were right. I'm a moron. I was a lunatic believing that nonsense.
He didn't give any reasons as to things he found out in the meantime. Usually when you make a statement like that, it's like, well, here's what I found out that changes my opinion on it, so it's over. He didn't do any of that. That's what's so weird about it. And he just said Hillary Clinton, then he said it's over, and then he said period. He said Hillary Clinton and period, and then he walked off.
I think the answer to your question is yes.
What's the question?
that they will.
People will go online.
Supporters will go online and admit they were wrong.
My bad.
Well, the only thing is you can see that, Trump doesn't really believe it. They're making him say it, and so he has to say it. And I get it. I still like him.
Yeah, that's exactly what they'll say. You're 100% right. Yeah, they made him say it. But wait, I thought he was a strong leader. What do you mean they made him say it?
It's politically correct and blah, blah, blah.
Wait. I thought his claim to fame was that he is not politically correct.
Yeah, but they're making him.